Hi everyone, and welcome back to Adam's Fishing, and welcome back to the quiet lake. True to its name, it actually is pretty quiet today, and by virtue of that fact I've actually been able to see some fish cruising, sunning themselves in this lovely late July sunshine. It's nearly 4 p.m. I've not got a lot of time on my hands, I've got a few hours at my disposal, but I have set up where you saw those fish. Hopefully I caught them on camera, and although I initially spooked the fish by flicking a lead out, I've put some bait in and I've noticed some fish start to drift back towards the area. They're not right back over the top of me, but they're in the area. I haven't put any baited rigs out yet. That's my next job. It's dead exciting to see fish and know they're in the area. I can't wait to start fishing for them. So guys, with regards to bait, I'm using up some boilies which I previously soaked in some sticky krill flavoured liquid. They're left over from a previous session, and what I did was I froze them so that they wouldn't go, I guess they might go off or mouldy if I left them damp in the bucket, and they've thawed out nicely. And as you can see, what we've ended up with is some nice, very soft free offerings which I've introduced into the swim. They still smell really pungent, which is great. For the actual hook bait, I'm taking some advice from some fellow club members, one of whom's had a really good catch rate on this lake compared to me, and he said he always fishes pop-ups, which is something I never do, fish pop-ups just on their own really, and he always fishes little 12mm white pop-ups, and I haven't got a lot of them, but I've got a few in there, certainly enough for this session. So I'm going to be fishing little white pop-ups on, yeah, you've guessed it, if I'm fishing a pop-up, then I suppose I'm going to be using a Ronnie Rig. I don't know a lot of rigs, to be honest, but I do know this Ronnie Rig by reputation, and I've managed to tie a few of these up with some wickedly sharp hooks. I'm just hoping that one of those sat up with a little white pop-up will entice one of these lovely carp. Gotta hope so. Okay guys, just thought I'd take a moment and show you how I've made one of these, because I don't use anything other than my snowman rig usually, do I? So something a little bit different from me here. For a start, I've got a size 6 hook, which has got a nice wide gape, micro barbed because that's allowed on this particular water. Attached to the hook is a hook bead, and just behind there is a threaded bait screw, which I'm going to screw my little boilie onto. Here where the hook joins the little Ronnie ring, if you like, it's actually a corder kicker, which fits just perfectly over the bottom of the hook and over the eye, or the open eye of the little quick change clip there. That in turn is tied on to some coated braid all the way through, nothing stripped on that one. I've got a little BB shot to act as a counterbalance here, and up this end where the rig is actually going to attach to the lead clip, I've got an anti-tangle sleeve. So next thing I need to do is attach a boilie onto one of these. So let's take one of these. This actually, the only white ones that I had, is a Manila flavour. Smells really nice. And all I'm going to do is take my my rig and my threaded bait screw here, and then just carefully screw on that little boilie, or a little pop-up I should say. And so in the end you should have something that looks a little bit like that. I'm going to give this a dunk in my krill flavoured glug, just to kind of match the flavour to the free offerings that I've put out there, or try to anyway. So that's the rig for this session on both rods. I'm going to flick them out, and once I've got everything settled, I'll show you exactly where I've positioned the rigs. Can't see any activity at the moment, but if I get these out in here with as little disturbance as possible, I feel like I've got a chance. Okay guys, now I've managed to cast both rigs out, I'll just show you where I'm fishing. Rod number one is just off of the side of the island here, perhaps this side of it by a couple of feet. And rod number two is just a little bit further into the island itself here, but again, probably a foot or two off of the island itself. I'm seeing the occasional sign of fish now. So it's really exciting stuff. I'm just going to sit on my hands and hope that one of these rods rips off. Alright guys, something I'm sure I should have checked out at home is the buoyancy of my little 12mm pop-ups, because just as I had a little bit of doubt, I've just tested a spare rig in the margin of the swim next to me here, and actually the weight of the hook and the little swivel, etc., is all enough to pull that bait down, and in actual fact my conclusion is that it's not really acting as a pop-up at all, and it's just acting as maybe a wafter, just a bottom bait type affair. So that's not great, especially as I haven't bought any bigger pop-ups with me. I just didn't think I'd need them. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do to work around that. I think probably what I'll do is keep one of those rigs as it is, but perhaps thread a little mesh PVA bag. I've got some of those with me in my bucket, just to protect the hook point from the lake bed, which is notoriously choddy on this lake. And on the other one, I guess I might switch on to one of my sort of more usually used snowman rigs, just because I know that that works, and I know that it will present well. But yeah, I'm kicking myself really. I should have tested that rig, that Ronnie rig at home, checked that it did actually pop up properly against the weight of the hook and the ring and the swivel and so forth. And unfortunately, it just doesn't. I probably need a bigger pop up on that rig, or a smaller hook, or something else to shed weight, because these ones just aren't doing it. Doesn't mean that it couldn't catch me a fish. You know, it's still a bait with a hook on it, a sharp hook, and you know, there's still a chance. So I'm not going to write it off completely for this session. I'm going to keep one of those rigs as it is, as I say, just using a little mesh PVA bag to try and present it better when it does settle on the lake bed. And the other one, I guess I'm going to switch to one of my snowman rigs, just so that I know I've got at least one rig fishing which I know from experience can catch fish on this lake too. So yeah, problems already. I've only been fishing for 20 minutes, so yeah, I'm probably going to have a bit of a redo of the rods, just so that I'm sat here in the knowledge that at least I've got a chance. It's a bit of a strange idea, threading a mesh bag onto a Ronnie rig. I'm sure it's not meant to be done this way, but it might just give me a chance to protect that hook point. Now, of course, the problem here is I can't slide the mesh bag any further down than the split shot. But what I suppose I could do is from there bring the hook itself and hook into the bag like so. And although it seems a bit of a weird way of casting a bait out, it might just give me the peace of mind to know that the hook point isn't fouled on anything when it does eventually get to the bottom of the lake. That's my theory anyway. It's only one of the rods, so it's 50% of my chances ruined if this is rubbish. Let's see how we get on. So guys, change of plan number 2. I'm sure you've seen it before. It is one of my snowman rigs with the little mesh bag fed all the way down this time, and the hook point pulled into it. Oh, a little leaf in my way there. I'm going to cast this one out, and then at least I know I've got both rods fishing, or at least in my mind that's what's going on anyway. Well, it's now 6 o'clock, which means I've been fishing properly for a couple of hours now. Not a single bleep so far. And although I have seen 1 or 2 carp cruising over the last couple of hours, there's not lots about as there were when I first arrived. Now actually, I think that might be a good thing. As you can see behind me, the swim is sort of starting to become bathed in shadow as the sun goes down behind the big oak tree across the other side of the lake there. And I'm hoping, without the sun on the water, the fish will move down and hopefully smell some of that lovely bait I've got out there, tip up and have a bit of a feed. So although I'm not seeing as much as I was when I first arrived, I'm actually still really excited and on the edge of my seat just waiting for that bite, but only time will tell. Right, well it's now 9:15, it's just starting to get dark and I'm afraid I haven't had any action at all so far. It's gone very quiet and very still. There's another couple of anglers on the lake now further down, but no one else up this end of the lake where I am. I'm not going to throw in the towel just yet. As I said, it's just starting to get dark and into the first hour or so of darkness. I just feel like that's when I've had probably most bites on this lake if I've been on a short session. So I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet. I think I'm going to hang it out for a bit longer and see if I can't just nick a bite before I have to disappear. As I say, no real signs of fish back in the area, but that might mean that they're rooting around and actually having a bit of a feed, which obviously is a good thing. So I'm still keeping everything crossed and just hoping for that last bite before I have to pack it in. Alright guys, well I'm back. It's another session. It's actually 2 weeks since that first session where unfortunately I wasn't successful and I didn't catch anything at all. It's a Friday evening now. I've actually been away on holiday a couple of weeks ago to Devon with the girls. Just been back this week, done my week at work, and the long-suffering wife very kindly offered and said you can go fishing this Friday if you want, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm here for the night, which I think gives me the best chance of catching something. I'm armed with some more buoyant pop-ups, so hopefully I can get those Ronnie rigs working in the way that they really should. Let's see how we get on. Alright guys, well it's a different swim today. It's a little bit closer to the deep end of the lake, which is closer to where we park the cars. Still about halfway along the lake, so not right on the car park, thankfully. But as I was walking past, intending to go to the spot that I was at last time, I saw fish in the area. I must have seen 3 or 4 fish cruising. Now, that doesn't mean that they're feeding, as I found out last time, but it does mean that there are carp around, and that's always a good place to start, isn't it? So I've got my brolly set up for the night. Just set up the bed chair in there. Now you can see I've got the 2 rods ready to rock here. Both will be on the Ronnie Rig, both fishing pop-ups. I'm just going to have to lead around just a little bit to work out where I'm going to present those rigs, because I haven't fished this swim before. But then once I've done that, I'll attach some baits, flick them out, sit back and enjoy the ride. So as I said, I've actually come prepared with some more buoyant pop-ups this time, thank goodness. Let's get a couple attached to some Ronnie rigs, and then they'll be ready to flick out after I've made a decision about where I'm going to be fishing them. First option is a sticky signature pop-up. You might be able to see in here if I do it like this. I don't know if you get the colour, but they're really very faded colours in pink, yellow and white. And fellow club member did recommend white, didn't they? So I'm definitely going to use a white one on one of those Ronnie rigs. The other one is one of these. It's a sticky krill pink one. They're still quite washed out pink, which I think is a good thing. But they've got the smell of the krill, and I'm putting out krill boilies, so I figure that's kind of a more a match the hatch type approach, isn't it? So so it's going to be a krill flavoured pink one on one, and a fruity flavoured signature in white on the other. So my scientific test this afternoon before I came was I attached one of these pop-ups, in fact I tried it with both, onto one of these Ronnie rigs, chucked it in my kitchen sink, and the buoyancy was just perfect, so I don't need to worry about that this time. And there, oops, I can stop my hand shaking, there's the rig, and hopefully that's how it will sit. Loads of flexibility in that. I actually use, I didn't mention this last time, but I actually use what they call a flexi threaded bait screw there, so it's got a little bit more flex and movement than if it were just a bog standard bait screw. So that'll be rig 1 with the krill flavoured pop-up. And this will be rig 2 with the signature flavour, which has got a real sort of fruity, zesty smell to it. Really nice actually. They smell like sweets, feel like you probably could eat one. I'm not going to try it though. And there's number 2. Oh, my hand's shaking like crazy. There's number 2, a white one. So I'm going to glug both of these, give them a good old dunk in the glug whilst I'm sorting out my spots, and then they'll be ready to cast. Fab. Alright folks, the spots are chosen. One is out towards this wooden bridge that you see here on the other side of the lake, but not that far, probably 2 or 3 rod lengths back towards me. And the other one is more out to this gap, if you like, in between these 2 bushes here. And again, not right up to the other side of the lake, but stepped in 2 or 3 rod lengths, I would say. So nearer sort of like the middle of the lake, really. That's where I started casting, just finding nice smooth silt, but that said it is silty, so I think using these pop-ups is probably the right way to go, and it's probably why other club members have had maybe a bit more success here than me, because they tend to use pop-ups. So I really hope that's the case anyway, because I'm using pop-ups today. Now it's time to get them attached to the rigs and cast out onto those spots. I fired a few pouch full of boilies over each spot, and whilst I've been getting all of that sorted, these have been soaking in this krill flavoured glug. Not so much so, or not for so long, that I'd imagine it will have absorbed enough to affect the buoyancy, but hopefully just give a little bit of scent and flavour around the little pop-up itself. Let's get them clipped on and cast out. Well, at last I'm fishing again. It's taken me about an hour to get properly set up and baits in the water. But now I've got that done, I can start to chill out a bit. I'm sweating a bit, it's still quite muggy, even though it's overcast today. We've had a couple of really hot days. It's been like a bit of a mini heat wave, but it's a lot cooler today. And I think any change in conditions is a good time to have a go and see if you can catch any. So today seems like as good a bet as any. Not seeing loads of movement in the swim, although having said that, just seen the back of a fish just off to my right there. Not exactly where I'm fishing, but not a million miles away, which is brilliant. You can see my brolly is behind me there. It's not right on top of the swim as I perhaps like, because it's not really a big enough area to have your brolly set up and your rods and stuff here. I'd be blocking the whole pathway, which is just behind me, for other anglers to get past if they need to. And so I've just tucked it away to one side there. So I'm kind of sleeping side onto my rods, which is a little bit different, something I haven't done for a while, I don't think. But probably only 5 big steps from the front of the brolly to the rods themselves. I'm fishing on bank sticks today as well, as you might have seen earlier. Reason being is I decided I was going to not bother with the barrow today, just bring a rucksack and travel as light as possible. And actually it worked out quite well. I did do 2 trips from the car, but it's a short walk, and honestly it would have taken me longer to set the barrow up than it would to do the 2 trips. So it's yeah, no great shakes really. Great to be back fishing again. Great to have the anticipation of a whole night ahead of me. I'm going to sit in my little chair. I've got my little fold-up chair, which I keep in my backpack down here. I'm going to sit in my little chair and watch the lake for as long as possible, and not really retire to the brolly until I absolutely have to. It's a very pleasant evening to be out fishing. Well, it's now 7 o'clock, so I've been fishing for 2 or 3 hours now, and unfortunately I haven't caught anything yet. I have on both rods had some sort of strange occurrence where the bobbin pulled right up to the blank and then just stayed there, the line kind of tight, so I'm thinking a fish is on, but on both occasions I lifted into nothing at all. So a bit weird. Don't know if maybe I'm doing something a bit wrong with these Ronnie rigs, a little bit unsure about them, to be honest, but I'm going to persevere, because if I don't, then I guess I'll never know if I can catch on them. I have, however, as I've been stood here watching the water, seen 1 or 2 or 3 fish rolling off the edge of these lily pads here you can see behind me. So what I've done is I've brought in my right hand rod and I flicked that one out there with just a single pop up, just to see if one of those fish might just pick it up. There's more activity out by those lily pads than there is anywhere else at the moment, so actually I'm feeling like that one's my best chance. But with the other one, the left hand rod going out to where I started, there's a nice bed of bait there now, because I've polted some boilies out after those aborted takes and so forth. So yeah, let's see what happens. I just hope one of them rips off at some point. Alright guys, well it's only 9 PM, but I'm already thinking about calling it a night. I'm absolutely shattered. It's been quite a long week, to be honest. I've just recast both rods and polted out a few pouches of boilies over the top. Everything went really well with the first rod. The second rod I had to cast 3 times before I got it just right. But at least now I know they're in position. I believe they're fishing well. Let's hope one of those Ronnie rigs does the business for me during the hours of darkness. Hi everyone and welcome to the shed, and I'm really sorry to report that that last session was a bust. I didn't catch a single thing, and I actually ended up packing up and going home pretty early on the morning after my night, and that's because when I dragged myself out of the brolly and had a look at the lake, I could see straight away that pretty much the entire stock of the lake were cruising around on the very top of the water, right up in the upper layer, gasping for presumably oxygen. I'm guessing there's been an oxygen crash, or there had been an oxygen crash, or certainly an oxygen depletion in the water. And the fish seemed just to be trying to survive more than anything else, if I'm honest with you. It wasn't just the carp up there on the top either. It was pike, it was bream, it was silverfish, it was everything. So it was clear to me something was going on and something was a little bit wrong. And with that in mind, a couple of things. I thought, I don't want to keep on casting at them that if they're obviously in distress, number one, and number two, they weren't going to be feeding anyway. They just weren't up for it. So I think that night session that I had there just was never going to result in a fish. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it anyway. So while I'm in the shed now, I'm going to be going again soon. Things have changed weather-wise. It's cooled off a bit, and we've passed that sort of stormy period after the heat wave that we had, which I think caused the problem in the water. I haven't seen or heard about any fish deaths in the lake, which is really reassuring. So as I say, I want to get back down there again soon. But the reason I'm in the shed today is I want to make a couple of tweaks to the Ronnie rig. Now that's not to say that I think that my rig was the problem and that's why I didn't catch. I'm sure that Ronnie rig that I've shown you is, is perfectly serviceable, and it would do the job if a fish were to take the bait into its mouth. But because I had time on my hands and time to really think about it, not catching any, I got to thinking that it just looks a little bit cumbersome and not very streamlined. So I've come up with a plan, I suppose. I've got some new components, and I'm going to put together the Ronnie Rig 2.0, my upgrade of the Ronnie Rig. It's nothing new, certainly won't be new to some of you, but just some ideas that I had and sort of researched about making something a little bit better looking that hopefully will still do the job really, really well when a fish comes along. Let's see how we get on. Alright, we'll start with just a quick recap of the original rig which I've used on those last couple of sessions on the quiet lake with no success, unfortunately. Although, as I say, I'm not blaming the rig necessarily, but it does look a little bit clunky, if you know what I mean. Have a look. So here's the Ronnie rig that I have been using, and the bit that I think just looks a bit much is obviously down the hook end here. We've just got a lot going on with the little quick change ring swivel, the cover of that, which in this case is a kicker or could be some shrink tubing. And if I'm honest, I'm not exactly enamoured with these hooks either. They're Gardner Mugger hooks, which I know have got a really good reputation, but as an avid user of the Nash pinpoint hooks for quite a while now, it just seems that the point is a little bit on the stubby side, I suppose, which probably makes it a bit stronger, but perhaps not quite as razor sharp as the Nash ones that I generally use. So what I'm going to do, oh, and also I've got a split shot on here, which is obviously the counterbalance to hold this thing on the lake bed, just gently, if you like, so that when a fish sucks, it can pick up that hook bait quite easily. But as I say, all looks a little bit on the clunky side, and I'm going to try and streamline it a little bit now with my upgrade, and it revolves around me wanting to use the Nash pinpoint hooks again. And I found these things online. They've been out for quite a while actually, it's just I didn't somehow get to know about them, but they're Fang gyro hooks, so I use the Fang hooks anyway, the Fang X hooks, and this is by the looks of things the same pattern of hook. The difference is it incorporates a micro ring swivel literally attached to the hook, So there's no need for a little mini quick change clip to make the Ronnie Rig. Let me show you what I mean, if I can get one of these out. The only thing that I've done with these is added a little bit of shrink tubing already. So let's see if you can see that. Yeah, there you go. You can see that the little swivel is actually forged onto the hook. So actually we end up with something a bit more streamlined, which is what I wanted. I've got the pattern of hook that I wanted here, and all I've done with each of these hooks, there's 5 in a pack, yeah, so I'm going to make 5 rigs, is I've just added a little bit of heat shrink tubing which covers the eye of the hook and just the top half of the barrel of the micro swivel there. So that is ready to be turned into my new Ronnie Rig. So let's go to the next stage. Okay guys, here's stage 2. I'm going to take a length of hook link material. In this case it's coated braid, it's end trap semi-stiff. I'm not stripping anything back on that. I'm just going to tie on my new Fang gyro hook using a I think it's called a grinner knot, a 3-turn grinner. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 over. It's going to come back on itself for another 3. 1, 2. Oh. Just going to moisten that down before I start tightening it. My aim was to make a neat knot, and I think, oh, hopefully that will focus. Just about see that. It's quite a neat knot there, which I'm quite pleased with. I'll just test it because I don't use this knot very often. But yeah, that seems quite strong too, really giving that the beans, so that's good. So I'm going to trim that down, and then we'll go to the next stage. So the next stage of creating this rig, is going to be the counterbalance. Now, where previously I used a split shot, a BB shot, this time, again, doing my research, come up with something which I haven't used before, which is a tungsten swivel or knot bead. This is the small size one. Again, it's a Nash thing. I think designed for this purpose, really. So as I understand it, I take one of these little beads and I thread it down the hook link, and it just nestles over that knot that I've just tied. So let's try it and see if it does what it says on the tin. I'm not sure if I need to use a needle to do that, or whether I can just poke the hook link material through. Let's have a look. I can just poke it through. Great. Pull that all the way down until I get to that knot that I've made, and then just very carefully, just going to make sure the tag end goes in as well, and then perhaps you can see that it's just nestled up against the knot now, but there's a little slit in the bead which I can position over the bottom part of the ring. So you won't be able to see this, but I'm just doing that now, just teasing it into place. Oh, now we're talking. So that is now in place. It's not going to come off as the BB shots have a tendency to, and it should balance out or sink that pop-up for me. Now this one is a small bead, apparently designed for a 12mm pop-up, but I'll do a little tank test in my kitchen sink and just to check to see that I can actually sink the pop-up that I want to sink. So I'm either going to end up using a 12mm pop-up or a trimmed down 15mm pop-up, I think, to balance this one out and present a bait, but we'll see. So I've still got quite a length of material on there. I perhaps didn't need to cut so much off of the spool, but I'm going to now thread on an anti-tangle sleeve and then tie myself an overhand knot in this hook link material to finish that off. Okay, so anti-tangle sleeve. I use the Fox ones. I find they're really nice and supple, which is good. Thread that on. I'm just going to use an overhand loop knot to get this thing roughly the length that I want it. I've got a ruler here, so I can actually check what I want, about probably 8 inches, I think. Let's go with that as a starting point. Okay, just trim off the excess. Tease that sleeve into place. And there we have it, one new, a bit curly whirly at the moment, needs straightening out with some steam, but one new Ronnie Rig. However, it's not finished, of course, because here at the hook end I need something to attach my bait to. So I use little threaded bait screws for this. I've got some here. Fiddly little pot that I've got them in. Okay, so these are flexi threaded bait screws. They're not just a bait screw, they've also got a little ring on, which is flexible, as the name suggests. Now thread that onto the hook, careful not to damage the point. And now obviously I need something to hold that that bait screw in place. Now again, with the old Ronnie Rig that I showed you before, I was using I think I was using a quarter hook bead, and it was a bit on the big side, a bit chunky, it looked a little bit obvious. So again, went online, had a look around for something a little bit smaller, a little bit more inconspicuous, and I came up with these. They're Thinking Anglers hook beads. I got them in the green colour, but they're teeny tiny, and they look a little less obtrusive. So I'm going to use one of these to hold that flexi bait screw in place. And there we have the finished product. I'm sure you'll agree, much more streamlined than what I was using before, but hopefully in terms of mechanics will do a good job of hooking a fish if it is to suck in the bait. I'm going to have a little practice with this in my kitchen sink and just make sure that it behaves properly, and then I'll be incorporating these into my armour for my next session down the Quiet Lake, which hopefully will be really soon. Okay guys, well there's the finished rig. I've actually made it and them slightly longer than I normally would because of the amount of silt on the Quiet Lake. And I've attached onto this one a little 12mm white pop-up. I'm just going to test that in my kitchen sink and see how it balances out. Okay, probably very difficult to tell with the camera, but that seems to be holding up, or that little pop-up seems to be holding up the hook nicely, and the counterbalance, the tungsten knot bead there, is keeping it pinned to the deck, which is great. So I think for a 12mm pop-up that works very nicely. I'm going to try it with a 15mm pop-up as well, just to see how that goes next. Okay, so this is a larger pop-up now. This is a 15mm pop-up. Sorry, excuse the road noise in the background. And that is actually holding up that hook just that little bit better. In actual fact, it's cocked that hook up in the water a bit more than the 12mm did, where it was the hook was sort of nodding down a little bit because of the weight of the hook and the 12mm pop-up not quite being buoyant enough to hold it up. But a 15mm does a really nice job on there actually, and you can see by the way it's reacting to my swirl in the water here, it's really quite critically balanced, so that's just about right, I think. Ready for my next trip? Fantastic. Well guys, it must be 4 or maybe even 5 sessions down the Quiet Lake now with absolutely nothing to show for my efforts. And finally, on this short evening session, I've been rewarded with a classic looking common carp caught on that oh so popular Ronnie Rig. Have a look at that. Absolute perfection. I am blown away by this, and I'm so happy that all my effort has finally paid off. What a beautiful creature. Still got lots and lots of life in her. So I'm going to carefully try and show you the other side. There she is. Fantastic. Quiet Lake Common. Absolutely made up. I'm not going to keep this one out of the water for too long. I'm going to get a quick photograph and then slip her back where she belongs. Absolutely brilliant. So pleased. If you guys have joined me for this collection of sessions, I really, really appreciate it. And I'm glad it's finally paid off. Magic. Well guys, what a buzz. I think I worked out while I was packing up, sorry I'm steaming up here, I think I worked out while I was packing up, it's been 5 sessions, 5 short sessions, including that one slightly longer session which was an overnighter on here before I finally connected to that fish and landed that really beautiful common. I don't know if I said it in the video because I was so excited, but I did weigh it. It came in at just a fraction over 9 pounds, so not one of the biggies that are in here unfortunately, but I am not complaining. After 4 blanks before this session, just to catch anything is such a huge relief and such a huge source of joy for me. I'm so pleased to have caught that one. Absolutely brilliant to be able to share it with you guys as well. I'm going to now say I've got the footage together that I want to create this video. So I suppose if you're watching this bit, you've watched all the way through, so well done. What it's actually going to be is an amalgamation of several videos that I've made over the course of these 5 sessions. To be fair, on a couple of those sessions I didn't film anything at all, so it's probably only 3 sessions that you'll see anything of here. But I guess in total that's going to make it quite a long video, so if you stuck it all the way through, well done. Thanks for joining me, and I really hope I can catch up with you again soon. Sorry for the long wait on this video, by the way, but as you could tell I wasn't catching anything, so now I finally have. I'm back with you, and hopefully I'll do a little bit of fishing on somewhere a little bit easier soon, where I don't have to wait quite so long between bites. But yeah, really chuffed to be able to produce this video for you guys, and thanks for watching again. I think I've said that about 5 times now. Anyway, I've got to go. It's like 11 PM now. It's a school night, and I need to go and get some kip. So cheers, see you again soon.